Gwendolyn Graham and Catherine May Wood, a couple from Grand Rapids, Michigan, aged 24 and 25 in 1987, found a macabre source of sexual excitement by killing 5 elderly female patients at the nursing home where they were employed. Their method involved jointly smothering their victims, after which they would engage in lovemaking to relive the thrill and heighten their sexual experience. Wood, a woman of substantial weight at 450 pounds, harbored a deep affection for the more dominant and sexually adventurous Graham. The partnership took a turn when Graham left for a new job in Texas, prompting Wood to break down and confess to authorities. Unfortunately, perhaps one of the more heinous crimes, abuse of the elderly, is all too common in nursing homes. No one, not even their co-workers, suspected that these 2 young women who were supposed to be taking care of these vulnerable patients would stoop so low. But before we begin today's true crime story, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and hit the bell icon to stay connected. Born in 1963, Gwen Graham, originally from California, spent her early years in Tyler, Texas. Despite being quiet and respectful to her teachers, she was always a sad, introverted child. In later years, she attributed this sadness to allegations of her father's inappropriate advances, a charge vehemently denied by him and never substantiated in court. As with most serial killers, her traumatic childhood set a precedent for whom she would become. Relocating to Michigan in 1968, Graham secured employment as a nurse's aide at the Alpine Manor nursing home in Walker, a suburb of Grand Rapids. At Alpine Manor, Graham's immediate superior was 24-year-old Cathy Wood, who had married as a teenager and reached a weight of 450 pounds after her 7-year marriage ended, leaving her alone and isolated in Grand Rapids. Initially hired at Alpine Manor in July 1985, Wood rapidly ascended to the position of supervisor of nurses' aides. Despite professional success, her social life remained barren until she encountered Gwen Graham on the job. Their professional relationship evolved into a romantic involvement, with Wood shedding pounds and embracing the lively social scene of gay bars, parties, and casual encounters. However, her primary commitment remained to Graham. By late 1986, the 2 women had professed enduring love for each other, regardless of the challenges they might face. In October, Gwen broached the topic of premeditated murder, but her partner dismissed it as mere play. During intimate moments, Gwen found pleasure in restraining Cathy and inducing a sense of suffocation, either by choking her or covering her face with a pillow until she teetered on the brink of unconsciousness. Despite any reservations Cathy may have had about the game, she kept them to herself. Gradually, Cathy discovered the interconnected nature of pain and pleasure, realizing they were 2 sides of the same thrilling coin. However, she couldn't stop there. Her disturbed mind would bring her to the thoughts of murder. The homicides at Alpine Manor unfolded over a 3-month span from January to early April 1987. Gwen's initial plan was dubbed the murder game. The initials of all of the victims would spell out the word murder, something she clearly planned. This perfect plan of hers failed when her targeted elderly patients resisted, compelling her to spare them. Most of the seniors had dementia or a neurological disease, which prevented them from communicating the abuse they had gone through. Surprisingly, no complaints were lodged, and both Wood and Graham received commendations from superiors, earning favor with the patients on the ward. Gwen resolved to target individuals too frail for self-defense in the future. Cathy served as the lookout, strategically positioned to observe the murder and monitor the nurses' station, diverting any staff members who ventured too close, while Graham silenced her chosen victim with a washcloth pressed over the nose and mouth. The sheer exhilaration of the killings thrilled Graham. Sometimes, she led Cathy to immediately retire to an empty room for intimacy while memories were fresh. Like a true psychopath, Gwen retained souvenirs in some instances, such as an anklet, handkerchief, brooch, or a set of dentures as trophies. Despite the risk inherent in murder, the deadly duo appeared to revel in danger, boasting of their body count to colleagues who dismissed the remarks as morbid jokes. No one believed them. Several nurses' aides glimpsed the shelf of souvenirs in the house shared by Wood and Graham, but none took the macabre tales of murder seriously at that point. However, by April 1987, the honeymoon phase for Wood and Graham had concluded. Cathy resisted personally taking a life to prove her love, leading to her transfer to a different shift. Meanwhile, Gwen started spending time with Heather Barrager, another lover, who eventually accompanied her on a journey back to Texas, leaving Cathy in a state of abandonment. By August, Cathy confided the story to her ex-husband, Ken Wood, but another 14 months passed before he contacted the police. Meanwhile, Gwen Graham had started working at Mother Frances Hospital in Tyler, maintaining contact with Cathy through telephone conversations. Initially skeptical, Grand Rapids police were uncertain about Ken Wood's account. In the first quarter of 1987, around 40 patients at Alpine Manor had died, all officially labeled as natural deaths. However, upon further examination, 8 cases raised suspicions. Detectives eventually ruled out 3 cases, leaving a victim list that included Marguerite Chambers, 60, Edith Cole, 89, Myrtle Luce, 95, Mae Mason, 79, and Belle Burkhard, 74. Despite the absence of scientific evidence of murder, Ken Wood's statement and the reconsideration of Alpine Manor staff were compelling enough to build a case. In December 1988, both women were arrested. Wood held without bond in Grand Rapids for charges related to victims Cook and Chambers, and Graham, who had lost her job in Texas due to rumors of the Michigan investigation, faced a $1 million bond. A brief extradition process ended with Graham willingly returning to face charges. The Alpine Manor staff, overwhelmed by the arrests, recalled Gwen's unpredictable nature and casually mentioned her quick temper. Former nurses' aides like Deborah Kidder, Nancy Harris, Lisa Lynch, Dawn Mayle, and Russell Thatcher reevaluated the sick jokes and souvenirs they had previously ignored while lives were at stake. During the trial, 4 would testify against Gwen Graham for the prosecution, with Cathy Wood becoming the state's star witness overnight. Wood's guilty plea in September 1989 to second-degree murder spared her from life imprisonment, resulting in a sentence of 20 to 40 years. In exchange for this relative leniency, she took the stand against Gwen 3 months later, sealing her ex-lover's fate. Cathy revealed that, aside from the 5 victims murdered, Gwen had attempted to suffocate at least 5 others who survived. Wood's confession to her husband was driven more by fear that Graham would continue killing in her new position at a Texas hospital, this time targeting infants. She expressed to the court, "When she was killing people at Alpine and I didn't do anything, that was bad enough. But when she would call me and say how she wanted to smash a baby, I had to stop her somehow. I knew she was working in a hospital there. She said she wanted to take one of the babies and smash it up against a window. I had to do something. I didn't care about myself anymore." Graham's attorney attempted to depict Wood as a spiteful, envious fabricator, framing his client as an innocent victim, but the jury did not concur. After 7 hours of deliberation, they found Gwen guilty on 5 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. On November 2, 1989, Graham received a sentencing of 6 life terms without the possibility of parole. She still remains in prison today. Cathy Wood was denied parole 8 times before being granted it in October 2019. This happened despite the victims' families being firmly against it. Many believed Cathy would kill again and that she was faking her remorse. However, she was released from prison in January 2020. Cathy, then 57, moved to Fort Hill, South Carolina, to reportedly live with her sister. Her parole stipulations barred her from working with children and vulnerable adults. However, that ended in June 2021. For now, it seems Cathy's chosen to keep a low profile, given her notoriety. Individuals, irrespective of gender, who exploit vulnerable patients for personal gain are inherently morally corrupt. They violate the societal foundation of trust, and some exhibit clear signs of sadism. Whether driven by past trauma or a desire for increased power, these individuals instill a sense of caution in people worldwide, making them hesitant to place trust in the healthcare system. In essence, their harm extends beyond the impact on their victims, as society at large becomes their ultimate casualty. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more true crime stories like this one. As always, thanks for watching.